Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. Geeky Sparkles is sending this video out. We're going to talk about Hollywood freaking the hell out because Netflix and Paramount are circling Warner Brothers. The unions are not happy. They're like, what about us? What about the work? What about the dues? What about the dues? And then we're going to talk about what happens potentially to CNN if Trump somehow gets his meat hooks into Warner Brothers via his buddies at Paramount, the Ellisons. You know, it's possible he could shut down CNN. I don't know. It's going to be very, very interesting. And that is a huge Hollywood mouthpiece. We're seeing more and more, outlets get yeeted or course corrected. You know, welcome to 2025. As things are crazy in 2025 and Hollywood is in a crisis for sure. So let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. If you want more Clownfish TV, go out to more.clownfishtv.com. Thank you very much for the support. This has come from the LA Times. They're freaking out in LA as Netflix and Paramount circle Warner Brothers Discovery. Hollywood unions are voicing alarm. Hollywood unions fear a Warner Brothers Discovery sale to Netflix or Paramount, and it's going to be one of those two, will spark consolidation that reduces competition, cuts pay, and eliminates jobs. You better believe it. It's going to be bad. It's already bad. Writers' employment in episodic television has plummeted 40% while studios cut back streaming content production amid subscriber declines. Again, streaming Highlander, union leaders are seeking written job guarantees and LA production commitments from companies pursuing major cost cuts. You might get some of that. You're not going to get all of that. Like, this is the end of Hollywood unions, in my opinion. I think this is what happens. After the double strikes, right? The studios took a look at the situation and they're like, well, one, we're spending way too damn much money. And two, who do these people think they are? They can shut down production whenever they want to? No. Fire up the machines. And that's what they're doing with AI. And I'm not saying it's right. I want to be very clear. You know, we talk about the reality, the financial reality of the situation. And I'm not agreeing necessarily with how everything is being handled, but the unions forced the studio's hands. And unlike prior strikes, they did have an ace in the hole with AI. And they did have an ace in the hole with being able to outsource production. And look at what, some of the biggest shows on TV are. They're not scripted, expensive shows. And they're also learning that you don't need to do as much content. You don't need to make as much content. Back in the day, when people used to watch TV live, it was very common for shows to have, 20, 26 episodes a season or whatever. And then we went down to 13. And then from 13, we went to like 10. And now a season, I'm using air quotes here, a season is like 6 episodes. It's kind of sad. But I mean, I 100% agree that the double strikes could have been the kill shot for the unions because they're not going to have the power that they had before. They're already kind of freaking out, trying to rope in YouTubers and trying to rope in podcasters because they have to kind of cast a wider net now. But I remember people like us, they used to look down their noses at people like us. If you weren't part of the vetted Hollywood establishment, you were riffraff, and they would go out of their way to try to keep you out of the industry. They'd go out of their way to try to, make sure people are watching their stuff and not your stuff. If you're not part of the union, you're not able to take advantage of all that Hollywood had to offer for the most part. And I think it's ending. I think it's the end of the unions, for sure. Anyway, the sale of Warner Brothers, whether in pieces to Netflix or in its entirety to Paramount, is stirring mounting worries among Hollywood union leaders about the possible fallout for their members. Unions representing writers, directors, actors, and crew workers have voiced growing concerns that further consolidation in the media industry will reduce competition, potentially causing studios to pay less for content and make it more difficult for people to find work. We've seen this movie before and we know how it ends, said Michelle Mulroney, president of the Writers Guild of America West. There are lots of promises made that 1 plus 1 is going to equal 3, but it's very hard to envision how two behemoths, for example, Warner Brothers and Netflix, can keep up the level of output they currently have. They will not. They will not. They will look at the vast IP library and they will pick the shows that they think are going to perform the best. And then they will try to make them as cheap as possible. And they will hire as few people as possible. And they might even outsource some of that production to other countries to avoid paying ridiculous, dues and unfortunately the cost of living in California. I think there are some tax credits coming, but that's not going to solve the bigger issue, right? Last week, Netflix announced it agreed to buy Warner Brothers Discovery's film and TV studio, Burbank Lot, HBO, and HBO Max for $27.75 a share, $72 billion. It also agreed to take on more than $10 billion of Warner Brothers debt. But Paramount, whose previous offers were rebuffed by Warner, has appealed directly to shareholders with an alternative bid to buy all of the company for $78 billion. Paramount said we'll have more than $6 billion in cuts over 3 years, while also saying the combined companies will release at least 30 movies a year. Netflix said it expects its deal will have $2 billion to $3 billion in cost cuts. Now, Paramount, here's where it gets sticky, and we talked about this before. Paramount is the best bet for Hollywood to continue more or less as is with theatrical releases and all of that. However, Hollywood does not like Paramount because it's run by the Ellisons, who are besties with Trump. So that is definitely going to be an issue, I think, for some people. But the alternative is Netflix gets a hold of Warner Brothers and they just shut down theatrical. They said they're not going to. They absolutely will. Or at least they will minimize the importance of theatrical. They just want the IP. They want the DC characters. They want the Harry Potter characters. They don't really care. They don't even care about the games. I was reading that they don't even care about Hogwarts Legacy 2. They don't know what to do with Warner Brothers games. They have no idea. Those cuts are expected to trigger thousands of layoffs across Hollywood, which has already been squeezed by the flight of production overseas and a contraction in the once booming TV business. Mulroney said that employment for WGA writers is down 40% from a year ago. Executives from both companies have said their deals would benefit creative talent and consumers. No, I'm telling you what's going to happen. There are going to be fewer jobs, fewer productions, and consumers are going to pay more because there's not going to be as much competition. So, I'm just saying that's what's going to happen, guys. It's Highlander. It's Highlander at this point. Hollywood union leaders are skeptical. We can hear the generalizations all day long, but it doesn't really mean anything unless it's on paper. And we just don't know if these companies are even prepared to make promises in writing. No, because they don't know what's going to happen yet. So this is Linda Doherty, a Teamster at Large Vice President and Principal Officer for Local 399, which represents drivers, location managers, and casting directors. And so when Hollywood is out of work, it's not just the actors, it's not just the above the line workers, it's also the below the line workers. And a lot of those people are hurting massively right now. And a lot of those people have actually left the industry or left the state to find work elsewhere. That's how bad things are. Right. And it's just, it's not good. We're hearing stories all the time about how not good things are. And if these tech companies consolidate entertainment, there just are going to be fewer jobs. I'm sorry. It's just the way it works. Doherty said that Teamsters have been engaged with both Netflix and Paramount. Actually, Netflix laughed at them during the strikes. I remember they're like, oh yeah, we're prepared. It was Ted Sarandos. He's like, yeah, we're prepared. They had a whole bunch of overseas content that they were going to bring in. Now they're like, yeah, we can just fire up the bot machine, the bot farm. And people will subscribe anyway. That's the truth. At the end of the day, the average Netflix consumer doesn't care if it's high art or not. They just want to Netflix and chill, or they want to throw something on in the background. They don't really care. They want commitments to keep filming in LA. No, I don't think that's going to happen. We have a lot of members that are struggling to find work or haven't worked in the last year or so. Hate to be that guy, but we told you so. Mulroney said her union has concerns about both bids, either by Netflix or Paramount. We don't think the merger is inevitable. We think there's an opportunity to push back here. No, I think it's done. If Netflix were to buy Warner Brothers TV and film, Mulroney said that could further undermine the theatrical business. Yep. It's hard to imagine them fully embracing theatrical exhibition. Yep. The exhibition model has been struggling to get back on its feet ever since the pandemic. So a move like this could be existential. Yep. They don't care. They don't care. What they care about is their profit, their bottom line. And if people will subscribe to Netflix for the worst possible crap and it comes from overseas or from a bot farm, as long as their subscriber numbers are up, that's all they care about. I mean, that's the truth. That is the cold, ice cold bucket of reality you feel on your face. That is what is going to happen. The Writers Guild also has issues with Paramount's bid, noting that it would put Paramount-owned CBS News and CNN under the same parent company. We have censorship concerns. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. We saw issues around Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel. We're concerned about what the news would look like under single ownership. So yeah, and their deals are set to expire next year. So, this is not looking good for them. This is SAG-AFTRA. They said deals in the best interest of SAG-AFTRA members and all other workers in the entertainment industry. It must result in more creation and more production, not less. That is not a realistic goal. Again, I know the unions are hurting because they are trying to rope in YouTubers, podcasters, TikTokers, anything that's even like arm's length video or audio production. They're trying to rope people in. They were trying to rope us in before the strikes. I'm like, no, because you're going to tell us what to do. I want to be told what to do. It's as simple as that. I want to be told what to do. And I knew that it was going to be this was probably going to play out the way that it's playing out right now. So yeah, SAG-AFTRA National Executive Director Duncan Crabtree Ireland said the union has been in discussions with both Paramount and Netflix. It's unclear yet what path forward is going to best protect the legacy that Warner Brothers presents, and that's something that we're actively investigating right now. It's not clear, however, how much influence the unions will have in the outcome. They just don't have a seat at the ultimate decision-making table. This is a professor of economics. Listen to this guy, David Smith. I expect their primary involvement could be through creating more awareness of potential challenges with a merger and more regulatory scrutiny. I think that's what they're attempting to do. No, they're trying to make themselves more work, and they're trying to roll the clock back about 5 years. And I really have to wonder if they had it to do over again, if they would have proceeded with the double strikes. Because I really think that was a massive catalyst in all this. I do. I think the double strikes, entertainment was down. So that means that, streaming revenue was down for most of these studios. They saw tech as the, Hail Mary pass. They started making deals there. They started shoring up AI because they could not be down indefinitely. And I'm sorry. I mean, I get people wanted what they wanted. They wanted better working conditions and they wanted, better pay and all that. Some of the asks I think were reasonable. Some of the asks I don't think were reasonable. And I think they just went, hard in the paint and it bit them in the ass. That is my personal opinion. I think that they, a double strike like that, you basically told Hollywood that you would kneecap them if you didn't get what you wanted. And they're like, fuck you. This is what we're going to do then. So you want to play, we'll play. That's what they're doing. I'm just saying, sometimes there aren't any good guys. Sometimes there's bad guys and worse guys. I'm just saying. And now here we are. And I think this will probably be the end of unions because I don't think there are going to be enough members to keep it going. And I don't think there's going to be enough incentive. And I think what these studios will ultimately do is say, hey, if you want to work with us, if you want to work with Netflix, you're not going to be part of the union. You're going to be a contractor. We're going to make a deal with you directly. Yes or no. And they're already doing it. I mean, I've seen some productions that were, there's a lot of controversy, I think, around the Transformers Netflix series because they recast everybody. They didn't get Peter Cullen and Frank Welker in. They had sound alikes, and I think that's because they were trying to sidestep the union. So I think they're on borrowed time, especially if this merger goes through, especially Netflix. They're not going to play ball. I'm telling you right now, they're not. It's also coming from the LA Times. What happens to CNN if Trump gets his way? They said Trump is leveraging the Warner Brothers Discovery acquisition battle to demand new CNN ownership and leadership, calling it a disgrace. Yeah, this is why he wants the Ellisons to have it. I mean, it doesn't matter what your politics are. It is what it is. The guy wants his buddies to get a hold of Warner Brothers so they can dismantle or change, depending on how you look at it, CNN. That's what it's all about. While the future of the network is uncertain as Warner Brothers juggles negotiations with Netflix and a hostile takeover bid by Paramount, the CEO of Paramount has signaled plans to overhaul CNN, potentially merging it with CBS News if his company acquires Warner Brothers, which means Barry Weiss would be in charge of CNN. That's crazy. She was a blogger, right? I mean, she worked for the New York Times, but she was a blogger, and then she wound up like running. God, that means I could run a company. Couldn't I run? Could I run a news organization? That'd be kind of fun. Which one should I run? I don't know. I'd bring MTV News back. That's what I would do. Shifting CNN rightward to appease Trump risks accelerating a ratings decline. Would it? Experts argue the network can't compete with Fox. That is probably true. That's the thing. Like, what do you do? Because you've already eroded all the trust in that organization. And then you're like, oh, we're going to compete directly with Fox. Good luck with that. It's like, good luck with that. It said, Trump wants a different kind of CNN as details emerge in the battle between Netflix and Paramount over the control of the movie studio and the streaming assets. Trump has made it clear he wants new ownership and leadership at the network. That's been a prime target in his attacks on the mainstream media. I think the people that have run CNN for the last long period of time are a disgrace. I don't think they should be entrusted with running CNN any longer. So I think any deal should be guaranteed and certain that CNN is part of it or sold separately. Trump said he will be involved in the government's regulatory review of a Warner Brothers deal. Of course he will. Injecting the president's animus towards CNN, which goes back to his presidential campaign in 2016, into the process has insiders at the network worried that journalistic independence will be sacrificed for the sake of a Warner Brothers Discovery deal. Well, they had to put somebody in at CBS to make sure that they wouldn't screw up again like they did with the 60 Minutes. And, in comes Barry Weiss. I'm just saying, CNN declined to comment. Yeah, this is going to be a shit show. I mean, we're going to basically see the consolidation and collapse of all media. So there's not going to be a place for Hollywood unions. I don't think there will be, because I don't think there's going to be much left of Hollywood. I think Hollywood is going to be eaten up by Silicon Valley. And again, I think if they need talent, they'll probably just cut deals with people directly. I'm not saying that's right. I want to be very clear. I'm just saying it is what it is. And so far, unfortunately, for a lot of people, we've been right about a lot of things, because I'm just looking at purely from the economic standpoint, which is this is end stage capitalism. It's Highlander. We're in the end game now. Whatever, however you want to say it. And all this entertainment is going to be centralized with a handful of players, and they're going to be, multi-cajillion dollar companies. And before it's all said and done, we're hearing that Disney might actually get sold to Apple too. So all these tech companies are going to own all this entertainment. Now, it doesn't mean you can't go out on your own, but you're not going to have the union and the infrastructure and all that stuff. So we're entering a very different phase of media for sure. So I'm going to wrap it up. Please subscribe. We will talk later.